important thing is not to stop questioning.
Woo. Okay, that's enough. Welcome, and I know it doesn't look like we talked about, but I am going to try the new tablet out, and this is the new audio and webcam. I want to go over hormonal control of blood glucose, which is pretty critical, and we will start. We've seen a diagram like this before. This is the set point, and anything above or below, we're going to have a feedback loop to return us to a nice steady state, homeostasis, steady state. So let's say your blood glucose rises. Oh, jeez.
Please call the main office.
I'm at work.
Please come to the main office.
Okay, so let's say your blood glucose level rises. You have something to eat. That's going to stimulate a specific area of the pancreas, a few clusters of cells called the islets of Langerhans. Islets of Langerhans, and each of these islets, very small percentage, I think your book says 1.5% of the pancreas is the islets of Langerhans, have either beta cells or alpha cells. This is the beta cells. This is crazy. Okay, it's the beta cells that release insulin. So beta insulin, alpha glucagon, beta insulin, alpha glucagon. So your blood glucose level rises, and it's going to stimulate your pancreas to release insulin. Well, when this is released, if you notice this green thing, it says released into the blood. So what it does is it first releases it to the interstitial fluid. Interstitial, we had that before, fluid. It's going to release it into the interstitial fluid. Well, that would make the pancreas an endocrine gland because we're releasing a hormone that goes into the blood. So this is an endocrine gland. That means for maintaining blood glucose, we're endocrine. However, we just learned it is an exocrine for digestion. Meaning the exocrine gland is going to have ducts or tubes, and that's where it releases all the enzymes. So the releases the enzymes and bicarb. So this is always kind of a trick question. Which of the following acts as both an endocrine and an exocrine gland? Well, that is the pancreas. Acts as both, because just for releasing insulin, it will release the chemical into the interstitial fluid, which will be swept up by capillaries, and it goes through the blood. But for digestion, we have that very specific tube that runs and empties into the duodenum for the other things. So it has both endocrine and exocrine functions. So what does insulin do? Let's go to insulin next. Insulin is, to me, it's like an invitation. If we look at it, it's the true hormone, and it's 2 polypeptides in a quaternary structure. So there's 2 chains that are made independently. They're not even in the same area on the chromosome. And then they are in the chaperonin protein. They're hooked together in quaternary structure, not just by disulfide bonds, but by microenvironments that help put it together. So there are multiple genes involved for working insulin. So insulin is going to tell the body cells to take up more glucose. If this is a body cell, here's your little nucleus. There are 2 receptor sites. There's one for glucose, and that will help glucose go in, almost like a channel. But there's one right next to it. It's like a check gate. And insulin has to bind. Let's do an I for insulin. Insulin has to bind at this check gate for glucose to be able to go in. If insulin's not there, glucose won't go in. So if you don't have insulin, the glucose level stays in your blood, even if your cells are starving. So it's kind of like the invitation. Without the invitation, you're not getting in. Now, this is for every body cell but your brain. Your brain does not need insulin for the glucose to go into your nerve cells. But every other cell in your body absolutely does. So if insulin is released, then your body cells are going to pull the glucose inside, and they're going to use that for cellular respiration, where glucose will go through glycolysis. Oh, and then, does anyone remember what's next? We get pyruvate. Pyruvate is converted to acetyl-CoA. Acetyl-CoA enters the mitochondria. We're at the Krebs cycle. The Krebs cycle will churn out some carbon dioxide, so we get CO2 released, and then to the electron transfer chain, where oxygen is the very last step, the final electron acceptor. So increased consumption of oxygen when this happens also. And then the blood glucose level will go down, and we're happy and we're homeostatic and everything's great. Now, let's say you go to sleep, and this is usually in PM, and this is usually eating. When you go to sleep, your blood glucose level falls. Well, now alpha cells of the pancreas, still in the islets of Langerhans, but they're alpha cells now, they're going to release something called glucagon, and they release it as an endocrine gland. So it's going to be released in the interstitial fluid and then into the blood. Glucagon acts on the liver, and what it tells the liver to do is it says, hey, break down glycogen. Now remember what glycogen is. We learned about storage polysaccharides a long time ago. And to help remind you, in plants, the storage polysaccharide is starch. And in animals, the storage polysaccharide is glycogen. And if you remember the structure, we had two different types of starch. They kind of went straight or they curled, and glycogen was all kinds of branched almost like a tree, like you're catching more energy. And these branches were made up of individual monomers of glucose. Sorry about the mess. Now, not only does the liver store glycogen, and animals store it in their liver and in their muscles. Now, fat doesn't store glycogen. Fat stores glucose as a fat, but not glycogen. Glucagon only acts on, however, the liver. The only target cells that have receptors for glucagon are located in the liver. So glucagon tells the liver, hey, start breaking down that glycogen store, and when you break it down, you're going to release glucose into your blood, and your blood level rises, and everything goes back to normal. This is why for diabetics, great, I need more space on Blackboard. When you click on, whatever. So when you're a diabetic, if you're a diabetic, hopefully you never become one, but it's important to check your blood sugar right when you wake up, because when you wake up, that tells you actually how your liver's doing. Because insulin and glucagon are called antagonistic hormones. One goes one way, one goes the other. Now, there you go. That's the hormonal control. You might be wondering, well, what? I got all these notes. What do I have to know from this chapter? On page 987, what you really want to know are, well, memorize the hormones, not the full names if you don't want to, but especially luteinizing, things like that. You can just LH, TSH, things like that, antidiuretic hormone, ADH, things like that. Memorize your hormones and what they do. And that is it. Hopefully you can download this. And why don't you give it a try? If you have questions, let me know. You can blog about them, and I'll check the blog, I don't know, around 9 or so tonight.